Hello, it's Stefan here in Sofia, Bulgaria. And today I'm going to take you on a virtual tour in only one of the sections of the National Archaeological Museum in Sofia. And that will be the prehistory section. Pretty much I was inspired in the light of the recent excavations in one of the caves in Bulgaria, in northern Bulgaria, Bachukiru Cave. A group of international scientists and archaeologists have discovered remains of what is to be believed the oldest human in Europe, Homo sapiens. Most probably, those remains are dated between 46 and 44,000 BC in the Paleolithic period, and this inspired me to take you on this virtual tour. Actually, the section in the National Museum is small, but definitely quite rich. And when we talk about prehistory, we should know that there are more or less four main periods. The Paleolithic period, which is between 1.5 million years to 10,000 BC. The Neolithic or the New Age period, which is between 6.2 thousand years BC to 400 4,900 BC. Then we have the Chalcolithic, or this is the stoned copper period, which is around only 1,000 years. Uh, and finally, it's the Bronze period. So, of course, we will start chronologically, and what you can see, I really like one map here. If you can see this map, what pretty much shows this map is that the Homo sapiens, and much earlier than Homo sapiens, all humanoids, they came from Africa to Europe using not the Gibraltar route, what was thought to be, but more or less the Middle East, then present day Turkey, the Balkans, and thus entering Europe. The other route is through Caucasus and then the steppes of Eastern Europe, thus spreading through the European continent. Actually, when we talk about remains from this period, mostly those are different tools made of flintstone, stone, antlers, um, and this could be seen here. More or less, they were found in caves because predominantly in this period, uh, people would live in caves. Why? Because it's better protection from all weather conditions, from the beasts outside, and this is the reason why most of the findings are in those habitats. It is interesting that among some of the discoveries, so what is interesting are the first graphic expressions on stone more than a million years ago and on uh, a piece of bone around 50,000 years ago. But then we had a change, the Neolithic period, the new Stone Age, which is between 6,200 and 4,900 BC. So, what is this change that I'm referring to? Mostly the people at that time, from being hunters and gatherers, they started farming. So they started settling down, having their settlements, some of them fortified settlements. And one of the big breakthroughs of the period is the pottery. So some fine examples of pottery you can see here. Uh, it's pottery when part of the decoration is white paint, so you can see some of the details here. And if you look closely here, what we can see, pardon me, it's always this, I'm trying to get better in this, better and better, but still you have to forgive me. Here you can see the swastika. Swastika used as a solar symbol in many Asian cultures throughout Europe, Middle East, Far East. The swastika is the symbol of the sun, is the symbol of life and the reincarnation of life. So this is not only uh, about use, about function, but it's also about aesthetics, and you can see that. But of course, as I mentioned, what can give those people the time to do that? First, they feel protected, secured. They are not moving from place for place, they're settled down, so they started farming. And when we talk about farming, you can have a look in here, these artifacts. Actually, these are sickles, antwer sickles. How they were made? So they're taken from the animals, cut into the middle, and then there are typically stones or flints that are put inside. So this is a type of a primitive sickle. So this gives the opportunity for the people to have more or less food. Of course, uh, at this period, at this time, the pottery wheel is not invented, so that's why the symmetry is not perfect, but still there's some very interesting shapes that you can see. Some are anthropomorphic or zoomorphic or more or less modeled after an animal or a human. Very interesting are these small altar tables, the triangular altar tables here, most of them used in the private homes for different religious ceremonies. The next period, that's the Chalcolithic period, around 1 millennia between 4900 and 3600. Then there are more and more significant changes. Mostly these are changes in the society. The cult to the priest is going to the top, accompanied with the cult to the great goddess mother, the belief in the female beginning, of which I will mention a few words when we go to the very heart of this sector. Also, at this period, Chalcolithic period or Copper Age, that's the time when people learned how to mine and process metals. What kind of metals? Copper and gold. This is the reason why the emphasis of armament, when we talk about armament, like spears, daggers, axes, they're made from copper. And when we talk about decoration, it is mostly gold. It's interesting that also when we talk about pottery, there are different shapes, different decoration. There's use of graphite, and you see a little bit gray or blackish. That's the use of graphite. Also, the relief is used as a decoration, which you can see here as well, quite well visible here. Uh, but at the same time, what is interesting in this period is that more or less there's already a class division between the chieftain, the highest priest, soldiers. So this class division, which later would define the history of the humans, now it is visible and it is present. Already at that time, what is interesting, the villages, they are fortified, so you can see one model here. In some of those villages, they have discovered stone walls surrounding the village, this giving protection, and not only protection, giving the idea that people have settled down. They are not nomads anymore. They work in the fields, they work in the pottery ateliers, and they need protection. That's why they have the fortress walls there. And if there's some one prehistoric site that needs to be mentioned specifically in the Bulgarian lands, that's the Karanovo Hotel. This is in southern Bulgaria near the town of Nova Zagora, where life can be traced for almost 3,000 years between 6th and 3rd millennia BC. Uh, the strata over there, it's around 40 feet of different cultures and civilizations, more or less presented in these glass boxes here. Mostly this is visible through pottery, different types of pottery. Of course, we are talking about painted pottery. We are talking about pottery where we use white paint as decoration, as I mentioned, channeled decoration, incised decoration. They are all typical for those periods. And the great thing about this site, Karanov Hotel, is that they're at one spot. So the different horizons of this tale could be checked quite easily. So slowly in this period, the end of the Copper Age comes with the Bronze Age. So the early Bronze Age starts in the mid 4th millennia BC. More or less here in the Balkans, this is situated here in the Bulgarian lands, Macedonian lands, European Turkey, etc. But also what is really interesting, so that's the map of the peninsula here, mostly Bulgarian lands. What is interesting is that there are significant changes of the population. So there are new ethnic groups coming most probably here from northeast, from the present day Ukraine, Russia, and thus we have change in the way of life, we have a change in the habits of the people. But of course, the most important change is the use of a new type of metal. Actually, we have bronze. What's typical for the bronze? It's an alloy where we have mixed copper and typically tin to produce this new material. Mostly, what you can see here, we have different tools and weapons made from bronze, and here you can see some of those. Let me give you a better look. Some of those axes that were found at different locations in Bulgaria. But what is also interesting is the fact that it is not only the everyday life here of these people, it's the spiritual life, it's the religious life. The religion is playing more and more significant role in their life, and it is presented here in the center of the exhibition. So when we talk about religion, we should be aware that the cult to the female beginning is leading. And how do we know that? Let me show you what we have in some of those uh, cases. We have images of women, female images here. The prehistoric Venice is presented here. Look at the image here. Let me take you here. Just look around and see this female traits. Actually, this gives them the idea that the prehistoric people, they believed in the great goddess mother as the one who would give life. That's the reason why in some of those we have this representation of female goddesses, the great goddess mother. But not only those, we have some so-called anthropomorphic figures, like this one here. It's a really beautiful one found in the last years during excavations in southwestern Bulgaria when they were making new highways. But also when we talk about female beginning, have a look here. What do we have here? Yes, we have those female figurines, but also we have these small models of houses or more or less of caves. How can we explain that? Here, we can have a look here. How can we explain that? Mostly, it is again related to the female cult. Uh, at many levels, we can see that this is the human beginning in the caves, and the cave could be related to the female womb. That's why we have those small models of houses slash caves presented here. But at the same time, we have these anthropomorphic figurines, so figurines that have different animal traits. Some of them, whew, they're like the imagination of Pablo Picasso, for example. Yeah? If you've seen some of his exhibitions, I've seen some of them in temporary exhibitions in MoMA in New York or Louisiana Museum in Denmark, and wow, I was amazed to see that many of them look like those figurines here. So here we definitely can talk about art, abstract art, for sure. And of course, when we were mentioning about this period, you can see some of those strange figurines presented here. Yep, let me have a look from here. The little animal here. What is that animal? We don't know. The other animals or anthropomorphic figurines or using the resemblance to a human, these like amulets or medallions made of some of them flint, other bones. You can see the holes. They would be put on the clothes, sewn on the clothes, so that those who wear them to have protection. And actually, what everything we see here is a sign of a high culture, a sign of a high civilization, which had inspirations to try to understand what's behind, what's the motor of life, what is not visible, what's that power. And actually, the culture, this prehistoric culture in the Bulgarian lands, gave solid grounds for the next civilization to be formed in these lands. And that would be the Thracian civilization. For the Thracian civilization, I will invite you on another virtual tour, and I hope that you like this. So, what's next? The Thracians, but not this time. Till then, see you down the road. Thank you.